Hello, Jimmy Townsend here again. I was talking to a fellow on Facebook, and I happened to say to him in the message that taxation has one purpose, and that's to take counterfeit fiat currency out of circulation. And he says, well, I don't quite get what you mean by that. And I said, well, all taxation as it is collected in our societies in North America is constructive fraud. I totally agree that a government has the right to levy a tax, but it is up to the private individual people in a country to determine if they want to pay that tax. You see, that's how people control their own governments. They either say, well, no, we're not going to fund this, or we are going to fund this. And nothing ever stops you from funding something that you like to see. The elite fund the army. They like to see that. They got all their money invested in horrendous things to kill people, so they have a vested interest in the army and sending their children to war and all that other sort of stuff. At any rate, to understand what I mean that taxation has one purpose, you do need to understand a little bit about money. Now, this here is not money, okay? This is currency. Okay? This is all part of an elaborate con game. And what you have to remember about these con games is they've been played for an awfully long time. So they are very huge only because they've been growing for so long. And now they've gotten to, the malignancy has gotten to the critical stage is what's happening. There is a global financial meltdown going on, and right now more people are losing more wealth than ever before in human history, and a very small group of people are gaining a lot of wealth. And because they own the systems that are put in place, not only do they do so with impunity, but they are capable of using these meltdowns to their advantage. If you understand how they, meaning the power elite, and if you really want to know who they is, go onto my blog on GentileDefenseLeague.org and read about the world leaders and the World Bank and all that other sort of stuff. Okay, in order to understand the frauds that are going on with money and currency, or whatever you want to call it, you have to understand what real money is in the first place, and you have to understand who the players are and what the games are playing, okay? So whether or not these people are Jewish or anything else is debatable, and it really doesn't matter. I mean, the people that are trying to kill off the planet, who cares what they are? They just have to be stopped, and they have to be said, hey, look, like you have half the wealth of the earth. Be happy, go home already. So if we take a look at Basel, Switzerland, Basel, Switzerland is home of the Bank of International Settlements, which houses the UN and also the heart of global Freemasonry. Basel, Switzerland is also the home of the world's largest pharmaceutical manufacturers. If we understand the Fabian philosophy and strategy of forced religion legislation to take over the world, we understand Basel has been a power place for a long time, the ecumenical councils of Basel, which is the reason that the Pope is guarded by the Vatican Guard. The power bases of the world are, of course, Basel, Switzerland. Forced religion legislation, force is Washington, religion is the Vatican, and legislation is London. These are the centers of the global game that's being played. And of course then there's little Israel. Now Israel is put up as the front, and all the stuff in the Middle East is a focus, a focal point to take the everybody's eyes off of the real crimes that are being committed. And of course a lot of the people calling themselves Jewish, or maybe they are Jewish or whatever, good people, bad people all over the place, of course, have been into a lot of banking, and all of that's been traced back a lot of it to Israel. But you see, here's the thing. If you read the Talmud, you can see this deep hatred that Talmudic Jews have against everybody else on the face of the earth, and how they're out to enslave them and all that other sort of stuff. And there's strategies that are around it. If you read them, there's the Shabbos Goy, the person in the excuse me, the person in the driver's seat. That everybody thinks is running it, but then there's the little Jew in the back seat that you see, and then there's the who's hiding in the fucking trunk that is, so you start calling people names and denigrating them and all that other sort of stuff, and you start to lose sight of who's really driving what and everything else, right? But you realize this strategy exists. Realizing this strategy exists, you're going to realize somebody else probably realized that a long, long time ago and co-opted it from the inside, and yeah, that's pretty well how it melts down. The Bank of International Settlements has an asset base of $175 trillion and is owed a global debt of $100 trillion. Did they have that money to lend out in the first place? No. How did they get it? Well, it's called constructive fraud. You see what you can do. The Fabian strategy for conquering these lands, and it's been going on for absolute centuries, is force religion and legislation. You go in and you smash it by force, and then you throw in your what you want them to believe. And in most instances, it's a holy Bible, and then you bring your lawyers in under the skirts of God. It's easy to see this happen in all the Commonwealth countries. The Commonwealth that God's chosen claim as their own. Well, it's part of a strategy. You see, what happens is we have this bar association in London, the Bar Mitzvah Association, Sons of the Divine Law, like the RCMP in Canada, written on their cop cars, maintien le droit. It means maintain the right of these people. You see, the banksters that are really behind this, the Bank of International Settlements, owns the Bank of England. The Bank of England set up the Bank of Canada and the Federal Reserve Board in the United States. So all central banks in Commonwealth countries answer to the Bank of International Settlements from Basel, Switzerland, and fly their quarterly for their marching orders. And you see, the strategy is that these people go in. The Bar Association was sent into Canada. They formed a corporation, they called it Canada, and they assumed power as the government of our country. Now, Thomas Paine wrote in The Rights of Man, there are two sources of power. If it is assumed, it is a complete usurpation of sovereign authority. If it is delegated, it is a solemn trust. And see, we, the people, whenever we vote, we believe that we are delegating authority, but that's not what happens. That authority gets assumed, and people that we believe we vote to delegated to authority swear allegiance to a foreign power, which is the definition of treason of the Black's Law Dictionary, by the way, betraying the government of the state into the hands of a foreign power. So this is the kind of crimes that go on, along with these financial crimes. Now, the financial crime is this. See, if you can go into a country and you can set up a corporation and you can assume power as the government, then you can set up courts. And the reason that you want to do this is, first of all, it allows you to enslave society. We know that the legal definition of free is not subject to the legal constraint of another. All lawyers do is write legal constraints legislation, and one piece of legislation at a time, we are slowly enslaved to the point that here we are, we stand up and sing songs about being free and equal and the true north and strong, rah-rah, and everything else. And we're just total slaves. If we read the Canadian Criminal Code, it defines the Canadian Armed Forces as Their Majesty's forces raised by Canada, raised like cattle for foreign cannon fodder, and that's why we're in an undeclared and illegal war over in Afghanistan over opium poppies, the same shit that kills all our children on the street. We're overloaded with drugs and pharmaceuticals. 4 times as many people in North America die from pharmaceutical drug use as from illicit narcotics. And here's Basel, Switzerland, home of the world's largest pharmaceutical manufacturer. It's the only neutral nation, armed to the teeth, everybody required to have a firearm. And yet in our nations, we can't have firearms, or they want to take them all away. And the reason for it is, if you take a look, okay, so these people came over and they formed a corporation, and they formed courts. Okay, now take a look at how this operates. It operates under criminal color of law. Now get a Black's Law Dictionary and look up color of law, and look up claim of right. You see this illegal criminal claim of right steals your birthright as a Canadian, and it doesn't matter if you're a private individual or if you're a public servant. It steals from you your birthright. So if you're a public servant, you're actually working for something that steals your own birthright from you, and it steals our birthright from the rest of us. We are born in Canada, and a part of Canada is an equal share of Canada goes to everybody. Why should it all land in Canada vested in the public? Well, who said? Who said I have to give up my birthright? Or anybody else that was born in this country. This country doesn't belong to the dead. The earth doesn't belong to the dead. Let the dead bury the dead. We are the living. The earth belongs to us, and it has to accommodate us. We need to eat on it. We need to share on it. And here's the thing. Whenever you put a system into place where men who produce have to pay men who produce nothing, eventually that system is going to collapse on itself. And it's meant to do that so that the people putting out this stuff can keep collecting on it. Now, so we have global bankers, and they go into all of these countries. They smash the indigenous peoples that live there so that they can bring in their own religion, so that they can mind manipulate people and set in their own legislative authorities, and thus enslave the earth. And you see, there are a lot of money crimes that go along with this, but if you don't understand what money is, you don't understand the money crime. Money comes from the Latin moneta, means to mint. So if it's not gold or silver or copper, then it's not real money. Okay, now this here thing is paper. Anything written on paper is an IOU. Okay, it's a liability. It is not an asset. Okay, now this is a silver dollar. This silver dollar, if I were to put it on a scale, we'd find it weighs 480 grains. But it contains 371, or we'd find it weighs 420 grains. I'm sorry, 480 grains of 1 troy ounce. We'd find that this weighs 420 grains, and it contains 371.25 grains of fine silver. Okay, 371.25 grains of fine silver is the definition of a dollar. A dollar is a weight, and that's how much a dollar weighs. Okay, but this weighs 420 grains because it has an alloy in it to make it a little bit harder. But it does have the required amount of silver for a dollar in it. Okay. Now, 1 troy ounce of silver weighs 480 grains. So by definition, 1 troy ounce weighs $1.30. But if we take a look at this thing here, you can see on it, okay, it's got to be on that side. I wonder if I can get that close enough for you guys to see what it says on it. $5. Okay, at the time that I bought this thing, it was $5. I have 5 of them saved up. All I ever need them for, I guess, is just to kind of prove a point, because it's not really enough to get you out of anything. And these silver dollars I've had for years. I started collecting them. I don't know what happened to most of them, but I got about half a dozen of them left. My real money, as opposed to this stuff. But oddly enough, it really doesn't matter how much of this stuff that you have, because if things get really bad, then this is what you need, and one of these can feed your family for a week. So I guess it gives me about a month, and really, a month ahead of the game anyways, is basically where we've gotten to in the financial position that we're in. Okay, so enough pussyfooting around and talking about money. We know that money, okay, is a metal. Now here's the thing, money is not a medium of exchange. Whenever I exchange money for a product, say if I give you a silver dollar for this jar of Panacea paste, we have effected a barter exchange. I've given you something of value for something of value. Currency, on the other hand, is an IOU. So currency is a medium of exchange, because if I give you this currency and you give me this bottle of paste, I've given you an IOU, and you've given me an asset. Okay, now you see, here's the thing, is if you can print this stuff, you can become very powerful. Rothschild said, allow me to print the money of the nation. I care not who makes its laws. Why do you say that? Well, here's the thing. It's all about IOUs. I can come over to your place and I can say, hey, that's one fancy Lamborghini there, Jack. Listen, I want to give you my IOU, and drive off with that puppy. And you say, Jimmy, me that, I love you like a brother, but no, I don't think I'll do it. And why is that? Well, it's because I'm not wearing fancy furs and a tin hat with rocks in it or anything like that, isn't it? And I don't have my picture on my IOU. Okay, it's just as worthless, but I mean, if you got all the proof raw to go along with it, the frills and fripperies, well, it makes it look good, right? Especially if you've gone into a country and you've created a government for them, a de facto government, an unlawful de facto government. You see, we Canadians have never created a lawful de jure government, and all we have to do that is just to simply sit down and do that and say to these people, well, you know what, we're just going to take over our own lives now. You guys can go back to Britain. It's been nice knowing you, but you know what, you really haven't been that great for us, because here we are, our entire country's $5 trillion in debt now to this Bank of International Settlements from Basel, Switzerland, and we don't see that we've been anything but hoodwinked by this whole entire system. Okay, so the Queen comes into all these countries, and she's the titular head. Okay, if you get on the Governor General's website, you'll see that that's the de facto sovereign head of Canada. Look in Section 15 of the Criminal Code, where it says that no person in Canada can be convicted of any violation of any rule or regulation made by someone in de facto possession of the country. And these people are in de facto possession of the country, and their own criminal code shows that they can't be convicting people, right? It's all this acting thing that goes on. And there really is a big act. There is this, everything's a corporation. The Government of Canada is a corporation traded on the Securities Exchange Commission. It's just been rolled into one large North America union accounting ball by Obama and Harper. And in the scheme of things, the way that we are enslaved is through another little legal artifice. Keep in mind that I said it was the Bar Association that came over to Canada, right? And these people come from the Inns of Temple Court that are owned by the British Crown of Israel and the Jewish monarch. Now, the Crown Temple is a church of Jewish Freemasons, and the head of that Crown Temple is a Freemason by the name of Robert Griffith Jones. And he is a very powerful Freemason and also an Anglican priest. So you can see how religion and politics all vector into each other. If you get onto hiddenfromhistory.org, Kevin Annette's website, you see how these same Anglican churches slaughtered native Canadian children. There's a record of 50,000 deaths, and the Canadian government finally had to own up to it, so they apologized. And Native people says, okay, we recognize that you apologize, now what are you going to do about it? The Canadian government goes, well, you know, we said we're sorry. You know, what more do you want, kind of thing. But you're harboring criminals. I think people do want more than that, actually, you know. And so that's where we are. Well, this Bar Association, it creates these little straw men. See, that's my straw man there. That's what I meant to do by this little fetish here. You know, you got your straw man, you got your social insurance number on one side, and you got your income tax on another side. Now, here's the thing: if you can print an IOU and print as much as you possibly want, that's what Rothschild says, then you can just go into a country and, oh, I'll buy this, I'll buy that, I'll buy the other thing, and you buy everything. And eventually this useless thing crashes, and you end up owning everything. You know, the stuff you bought is still yours, but everybody that took your counterfeit money is broke and living on the street. And of course, if we read books about the Depression, we know what happened then. See, everything's cycled and rode whenever you own the government and you own the courts, and people go to the courts for justice, and it's the courts that are the venue for attacking the country in the first place, for taking our birthrights under claim of right and color of law, and they seize our land by adverse possession. Look it up, and then you will see why the government, the foreign-owned government, wants the arms of private individual Canadians. I mean, we are Canadians. Who better than us to defend our own country? We are the ones with the intimate interest in it. Are we crazy to give up our firearms to a foreign government? I mean, here's the thing. The reason that we need to get together and form lawful de jure governments is because we have this de facto government system, and it's a criminal government system. And in law, you cannot rise above a criminal beginning. So it doesn't matter if these people self-style themselves right honorable and all that other sort of stuff. We know they're not. And we know, because this thing had a criminal beginning, that it can never be anything more than a criminal entity. And we Canadians need to get together en masse and just say, all right, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to form a lawful de jure government, and we're going to be honest with each other. We're going to show infinite love towards each other, and we're going to build our country into something that's absolutely beautiful, with the resources that are ours by our birthright. And all we have to do is stand up and educate ourselves and say no to this system. Do what I've done. Go and research the British North America Act and find out it is not a valid act of the UK Parliament. Never was. It's all just a little conspiracy thing that's been put together by these people, this Bar Association, these Inns of Temple Court that come from this Crown Temple Church, and that's how Freemasonry vectors through all of these things. John F. Kennedy talked about secret societies, and he said, don't allow these secret societies to exist in societies of free men, because they swear blood oaths not to divulge the truth, to protect each other whenever they know their lies. And you have so many of these interests that are contrived through religion, like, you know, the Jewish diaspora, the Zionism, this mental attack on Jewish people all the time that makes them think that they're different, and sends them into paranoid little cliques where they believe that they exist in a diaspora rather than just becoming a part of the nation that they've moved to like everybody else. Like, nobody truly really sees a Jewish person other than anybody else, or even a black person. You know, like, I wasn't born in the Deep South or anything else like that. You know, like, geez, there was one black family that I remember in Surrey, and the kid had all the friends in the world. Nobody ever said anything about him or to him. Kids didn't even know each other's names. You just seen them on the ball field and start kicking a ball together, or shooting marbles, or something like that. You know, all of this racism stuff doesn't come from the hearts of children, and so you can see that that's not innate within us. It's all learned and everything else, right? And it's this system of forced religion legislation, and the system of forced religion legislation is so that they can put in the government, then they can put in the courts, and using the courts, this IOU is what? Legally mandated. This note is legal tender. And who says that you have to accept this liability for your assets? A lawyer, for God's sakes. In God we trust, written on money. Where's your God now, America? Billions of dollars you guys give away to the bankers after they rip everybody. Just, you know. Well, you know what? We're run by the same people. If you take a look at what passed for the provinces in Canada, they're all exchanged on the Securities Exchange Commissions. All the courts, they're all private government corporations as well, for-profit agencies that are exchanged on the Securities Exchange. And you know what? These are the only corporations that are enjoying record profits at this point in time. They're hiring. You know, they got the RCMP thing on all the time, and you go onto the RCMP hiring website, and they even ask the question right out there: would you shoot at one of your fellow man for not following your country's laws? And you can bet that everybody that clicks yes on that is going to be given a set of black gloves and some fucking sunglasses, and said, "Go sick him, dog. He got no rights." You know, we've all seen it, the emerging, you know. And whatever happened to Canada's best? You know, the bright young people. Well, I can tell you part of it. Get on Stats Canada and look up suicide rates, because you know what? It's not Native children that are in the highest echo on a suicide there. It's white Canadian males between the ages of 20 and 40 years of age, and also the most highly educated, also the most financially in debt from money age. So if I can go into your society and your courts legally mandate you have to take this, so I can go anywhere I want. I got a print and press going in the back all the time. Boom, boom, boom. Buy this, buy that, buy the other thing. And the government, same people, right? They just kite checks for everything. Government buys up absolutely everything, rolls it into the Crown Titles Office. So now the Crown owns all the title to everything in Canada, and you get a title in fee simple. Look it up, fee simple. Did you know that you're part of a feudal society? You see, it's a system of culvertage. Look up culvertage. Culvertage is a process of forfeiture and degradation, whereby you reduce a nation to a feudal state. And it's through another couple crimes that you'll find listed in Black's Law called barratry and champerty. See, here's the thing. These governments come in and they hire government employees, and the government employees do have an employment contract with the corporation that hired them, and that's called their constitution. They have a charter of rights, and that's their corporate rights that they have while they're working at the company store there. And look at Section 32 of the Constitution. If you don't believe me, it does not apply to private individuals, and it states that on the Justice Department's own website. If you get on there and you look at the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Shouldn't get off of the money game. So the idea is that these people can come in and they can print as much money as they want, and they can buy up everything. But here's the thing: can you keep on printing indefinitely? Well, pretty soon it's just shin blasters, isn't it? So you have to get some of it back. And you see, that's why they had to implement an income tax, so that they could get a bunch of this stuff back out of circulation, because otherwise it's just too much inflation, and pretty soon it's worth absolutely nothing. So that's why taxation's got to go up at the same time as printing. This has to go up, and that's why the price of everything goes up as well, because they're always trying to get their phony stuff back out of circulation. And the debt that we have in Canada, the $5 trillion debt, is because we haven't been able to get all that back out. You see, whenever you finance everything with debt, which is exactly what you're doing, I mean, all banking is fraud. You go to the bank for a loan, and the bank says to you, "Oh, do you have any assets?" And you say, "Yeah, you do." Okay, you put that up. Put up your equity here. So you sign over papers for them to monetize it. They take that money and they lend it to you. Yeah, they lend you back your own money, and they charge the pi rate. So if you borrow $200,000, by the time you're done paying, you will have paid pi times that rate. So approximately $650,000 on a $200,000 loan, with the magic of compound interest, so that they can stay underneath the usury laws. Usury in Canada now is it's considered an unfair rate if you have above 60% interest. That's the advantage that you have writing all of these laws. Now you see, these things come into power by baby steps and stuff like that, okay? Like, first of all, whenever the bankers started playing the IOU game, the IOU was actually backed by something, okay? It was a bearer bond. It said pay bearer on demand $1. So for every one of those, you could go into the mint, and you could change the thing back in, and you could get your silver back, right? And then they went off of that, and they went on the fractional reserve. So now to print this, so you had that, instead of $1's worth of silver, now you only need $0.50 worth of silver. Then they went off fractional reserve, and then they just started printing. They're backed by nothing. They're absolutely useless. Now here's the thing, is every country in the Commonwealth has a useless currency. So if you take a look at derivatives, the differences that are being played in this currency, you know that it's all one big scam, right? Of course, it's all insider trading, and those are just fixed, like the London gold and silver price is just fixed at an arbitrary amount, because you see, whenever you have an honest system, you will always see silver at $1.30 an ounce, because that's what it weighs, and gold at $20 an ounce, because that's what it's pegged in value to the silver to have a monetary exchange system. And so if you have silver in Canada that was minted before 1967, if you have pennies that were minted before 1982, keep in mind that pennies are real money, and 100 of them does make $1, so it's worth it to take a look at your pennies before 1982 and collect them. This silver maple leaf, I bought it when it was $5. I wrote this little missive on real money here whenever silver was at $5 and gold was at $380 an ounce, and I told people to start buying silver, and a lot of people I know did, and silver just went up to $32 an ounce, which is an indication of how worthless this is getting. Now, I'm talking about the difference between money and stuff like that. Okay, if this is worth bugger all, and the American dollar is worth bugger all, but it's worth 1.01% of ours, how much is it worth? Well, it's still worth bugger all. You see, it's all a game, and for as long as people will continue exchanging this stuff, that's how long the financial system is going to last. And when it crashes, all of this stuff is going to be fancy fire starter, and any silver that you do manage to get your hands on is, of course, going to benefit you. And of course, it's not only silver, right? You can't eat silver. The most important thing you want to do is get yourself food, right, and heirloom seeds, so that you can plant good, healthy crops that you can get seeds and replenish yourself. And here's the thing: is it really doesn't take very much to grow a garden. Anybody in the city can put up a little 8x10 greenhouse if you have a yard, or even growing in window boxes is you can grow an awful lot of herbs, and herbs are just packed full of nutrients and vitamins, so they're really, really good for you, right? Things that you need to do when this stuff crashes, okay? And electronic credits actually account for most of what is called currency, and of course you pull the plug on the electricity and there goes the electronic credits. Oops, sorry, we had a glitch in our bank records. Give us a week, we'll try and figure out what's going on. So there you are with absolutely no money, sitting there wondering what's going on. Any government agency can go in any time and take all of your money out of your bank account. CRA, whenever I got into a disagreement with them, went in and took out the last $3.21 out of my bank account, and I thought, how the hell can you do that? 5 lawyers go after $3.21. What are these people, full tilt retarded? Well, no, they were trying to say, oh, we're putting you in your place, and they violated criminal code laws, and they violated CRA rules and regulations, but they really didn't care anyways, because they know that it's just a criminal conspiracy. I mean, I tried to lay charges against CRA, and I had ground prosecutor in Calgary. Finally, I said to him, are you telling me that that income tax is just a scam run by the Justice Department? He says, of course it is. You know, I'm retarded. This is taking me so long to figure this out after I've kind of written a book, and I just, you don't want to believe that the whole thing is corrupt, but when you realize it was started as a criminal enterprise from the beginning, then you realize, well, it's always been corrupt. It hasn't grown corrupt. It's just always been corrupt and had this face put on it. And, we are hypocrites in everything else. You go into Walmart, which undercuts all of your local trade, puts everybody locally out of business as bureaucrats run around and try to license everybody out of business, or shut them down because they don't have licenses. I know a kid tried to start a bicycle shop, for God's sakes, and the city way out in the friggin' country here came after him and said, oh, you need a license and everything. And it was just like, okay, I won't fix bikes. Right? This is total nonsense. This is absolute control over life. It's not even, it's just a company store, and it's a company store that's kiting these checks, and they control the money system, and they buy everything. They control all of our resources. They steal our birthrights under claim of right. They even call us human resources, and after having paid them all of our assets for all of these years, we have nothing left. And now that we have nothing left, these people are trying to kill us off. And I mean that. Chemtrails, toxic poisoning, processed food is just so much garbage, and try and grow your own stuff. and it's almost impossible. They attack you, and I mean, I go out on a mining claim. I'm disabled, and I go out in the middle of nowhere to play with a pan in a mud hole because gold has gotten up to nearly $1,400 an ounce, and I pay all my licenses, and they come out and they say, oh, you're using your camp for residential purposes. Well, I've resided in my motorhome for God knows how long. I've lived in buses for over 10 years now. This is my residence, so what if it's sitting on a mining claim? They give you an acre to make a camp so that you got a place to reside when you're there. How is it that they can come along after you pay them all your licenses, all their license fees, and they come along and they say, oh, you're using your camp for residential purposes, therefore we're seizing it back from you. Bang, nothing we can do. What the frick? Cost me thousands of dollars, you know, just for using a camp for the only thing that a camp is good for is to, you know, and what's the reason for that? Well, here's the reason for it right here, isn't it? I wrote a book. I wrote a book about how this system actually works. This book is online on GentileDefenseLeague.net. It's called Without Prejudice. And you know what? Here's the thing, is it's not any one person or any group of people or anything else. We've been immersed in this system for an awful long time. In 1867, a confederation was committed against Canada. Look it up in Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition. A confederation is a conspiracy to commit a crime, and the definition of a confederate in the legal dictionary is a criminal. It's a criminal enterprise from the outset. Look up in Encyclopedia Britannica, look up Sir John A. Macdonald. And Sir John A. Macdonald says himself, a British subject I was born, a British subject I will die. A subject was a slave. He was a bar association slave, and he had a lot to gain by selling out Canada. He got he married into the House of Lords. He got an annual stipend of, I believe, £5,000, which was a fortune at that point in time. And he became the Prime Minister of a country, and if he hadn't managed to strike the deal in the Washington Hotel as plenipotentiary of the foreign crown, he would have been nothing. You know, and so this was, the United States was simply going to take over all of North America at that point in time, and the British were trying to hang on to what they, whatever they could. Canada was not created as a bona fide country. Canada was created as an effort by the British Crown to hang on to property that they had unlawfully claimed. And that's all it ever has been, and that's all it ever will be. And all of our problems are growing on account of it. There are some people that are standing up and coming up with very intelligent ideas. If you get on to look up the Sovereign Squamish Nation, you'll see a group of people in Vancouver that have formed a lawful de jure government and society, and I think it's well constituted as well. And I encourage you to go over there and look at the peaceful means of taking this crown out of our society and getting rid of all of these IOU debt instruments that do nothing, that crash our economy and steal all of our property. I mean, if a man works and he pays off a piece of property, you've only got so much time to work and be able to buy things, and then you grow old, and the aches and pains that you got from working, you just can't work anymore, and you should be able to sit back on a piece of property that you paid for and not have to pay taxes for that property. You know, and if you have to pay taxes, if somebody runs water into you and you have to pay them for that, well, then that's fine. If somebody runs electricity and you have to pay them for that, well, then that's fine. But you know what, if you can't afford either of them, and all you can afford is to put an outhouse on your property that you paid for, you should never lose it for taxation. And another thing, if it's your property and you find something under it, it's yours. That's what a allodial title is. You own from the center of the earth to the heavens. And I mean, surely, if you believe in such an entity, all right, there's a man sitting up in the clouds there, and we got to cut a deal with him. Well, then, you know, really, if you think about it, in a free and equal nation, the only deal that we can cut is using the land as a usufruct, whereby you return it in the exact same condition that you got it. And I mean, the native people proved in the Americas for hundreds of thousands of years that that was easily doable. They flourished. They had wonderful memories for generation after generation after generation, because they never abused the unspoken deal that they have with the energies that they perceive to be out there. And here's the thing: is we are put upon by people that would have you believe that they are our intermediaries to God. You know, like they have the answer, and we are barbaric and can't possibly know any better, and yet they need to hold our property in adverse possession, and somehow seem to believe that we are incapable of understanding the scam that is being played against us. If you take a look at your birth certificate, there's a bond number on it. It creates a bondsman. Well, look up a bondsman. A bondsman's a slave. There's even a bond number on this thing, and it's got a social insurance number, and it's got my name written in all capital letters. Well, did these guys fail grade 5 grammar? No. You know that. You know that it's written in all capital letters, and thus it's a mask. It's a persona, and that's why a corporation is called a persona. This is a corporation that was created at the time of my birth, and it is constructive fraud to attach it to me. I am put up as surety for this corporation. So this corporation, which is an asset to the people that created it, the Treasury Board of Canada, if you see the bond on the back of the birth certificate, it says for Treasury use only. And this is the person that they are interacting with when they're sending you their mail. And you see in their criminal code it says ignorance of the law is no excuse. So if you're ignorant of the law, then they say, well, you know, that's no excuse, and then you go into the court and they call out Harry James Townsend, and you don't know that it's written in all capital letters because it sounds the same when you speak it out. You think they're talking to you, and they say, are you this person? And you say, yeah. Well, they're asking, are you that person there? Right? So you're putting yourself into it. But if you say to the court, well, you know, they asked me to plead, and I said, I do not consent, and I waive all benefits. I don't want to be part of this proceeding. And the judge even, you know, he says, well, not guilty. And I asked him, I said, are you representing me, Your Honor? He says, no. And he says, you're not guilty, are you? And I said, no. And he turns around, not guilty. And why did he enter a plea of not guilty for himself? He said he wasn't representing me, so he wasn't, you know, he wasn't entering the plea on my behalf. It was a simple question. He asked me if I was guilty, and I said no. That didn't mean that I pled to it. I was just answering his question. When he asked me how I pled, I said, I do not consent, and I waive the benefits. And I have made application to the Sovereign Squamish Nation to independently adjudicate the case, because here's the thing, is I have this Constable Wendland, who I have an interesting history with for since 1996. And whenever we were the victims of a burglary, and Wendland tried to sweep it all under the rug then, and then my wife was nearly killed by a hit-and-run driver, and somebody lost, the same police department lost all of her witness reports. We got our files back under the Freedom of Information Act from the RCMP. They were supposed to have 30 days, took them over a year, and the mess they made of the file trying to doctor it up. And the first thing I noticed whenever I went to pick it up, they said, oh, you know, it's great hush-hush, big secret. You've got to come in from Edgewood into McCusker and pick it up because we can't give it to anybody else or whatever, right? So drive all the way in there, and here's this rookie behind the desk, and he makes me sign for this thing, all business-like and everything else, and I'm on my way out to the truck, and I take the drop paper off, and I look at him, what the fuck? Here's this Harry James Townsend, 6.5 feet tall, blonde, blue-eyed. That look like me? 6.5 feet tall. Warning, violent, dangerous, and all this shit. I don't have a criminal record, and no record of violence. I got a pretty sharp fucking tongue, and some people really hate me for it. But other than that tongue lashing, I don't think I've been more violent than that to anybody in my life. And that's why I have a record that kind of says it. So I'm looking at this thing, and I get onto the front seat of my truck, and I put this top paper down, and here's another one, same guy or whatever, and I'm looking at this thing, and on the top of this file is all this shit, and I'm thinking, oh, they're trying to set me up and make this look like something fucking goofy, right? So I go back into the cop shop, and I says to this rookie, I says, Tony stupid, and I says, geez, I don't think I should have these files. I says, this is Harry James, who's 6.5 feet tall, and he's blonde and blue-eyed, and he's born in 1965. I'm born in 1956. I says, I think somebody screwed up the records. And he looks at it, and I says, I'm not sure I should have somebody else's files, because those are RCMP files. Should I have someone else's files? Oh, no, I have to take these back, he says. Waited all this time for him. I need a letter, right? Oh, well, I can give you a letter. So he gets a piece of paper, and I take it, and I write on there that I had to return it because they weren't my files in there, and I have them sign it, and I get a copy of it. A week later, we're out in Eagle Creek, which is about 3 kilometers on the other side of Edgewood, and see what's out past me there. That'd be fuck all, and about 25 miles past that would be the gates of frozen hell. So all of a sudden, this rookie shows up one day, and oh, I was in the neighborhood, so I thought I would drop out your record for you. You were in the neighborhood? So here's this big thing's gone way down to this or whatever, and he brings it over to me, and he's kind of looking at me, and I says, they give you shit, didn't they? It goes all red and everything. And I looked, and I says, yeah, I did. I can tell by your face. They gave you shit. I says, they set you up for that, didn't they? No, they didn't. I says, yeah, they did. I can tell by your face. He was not saying anything. And I gave him one of my books there, and I said, it's fun to do some research into who you're working for before you just go off and get employed with anybody, because, I mean, this stuff has all come to a head before. Look up some real Canadian history. The last Depression, Canadians were out of work and everything else. This system of governance that steals absolutely everything and stolen absolutely everything from everybody, and people who had become used to the system were demanding the government do something. They started marching on Ottawa. They got as far as Regina, and the RCMP started firing on them. Every time there's been an armed conflict in Canada, the RCMP have fired on Canadians. These are not a force of Canadians. These are armed mercenaries, and they are a foreign force, just the exact same as the Canadian armed forces are. Force, religion, legislation. This federal system that was put in place, force, there's an exogenous force and an endogenous force. The exogenous forces are the Canadian armed forces. The endogenous forces are the federal police forces. Who are the legitimate police forces in our country? The Toronto police, the Vancouver police. These are local police forces. The very best in our societies there. And, yeah, there's corrupt ones as well. And now they're even become tainted by interaction with the federal police. And who do the federal police interact with? CSIS and the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, and MI6, and the CIA, and all of the alphabet soup gang run by the British Crown of Israel and their Jewish monarchs, kind of the little deception, smoke and mirrors front for the money games being played from Basel. You know, in 1967, they took put Canada onto the metric system. And the reason they did that is that was a little smoke and mirror show to cover up the fact that they took the definition of a dollar out of the weights and measures section there. And all of Canada's silver dollars, and what did the British give us in exchange? Oh, loonies and toonies, looney tunes. Yeah, well, you know, a single silver dollar could feed your family for a week in the last Depression, but ain't going to get you. It's going to be as worthless as the paper I owe you, because there ain't nothing in it. It's a piece of garbage. It's a tiddlywink. And you can't do anything with tiddlywinks. But money, what do you need money for? You need money to buy things. And that's why I never did bother getting myself a great huge amount of silver in the first place. I didn't have the money. You're always living on the edge. That's how they go after you in the first place. Keep you living on the edge and being on a disability when they can give you the bare minimum that they possibly can. And we pay taxes like everybody else, like we go spend our money, and it's, you never have enough to eat for a whole month, and you're always owing something for someone and trying to work on something in some manner. But what money buys is food. It buys arms. Like how are you going to defend your possessions when people are going to come in to kill you? The cops are not going to arrive until too late, and then they're going to arrive with a ticket book, and it's probably going to cost you money for having called them in the first place. And that's just where we are. They're all sitting, hiding around corners, waiting to try and catch somebody that's going too fast, or else just pull somebody over and say, hey, you were going too fast, it's this and that, writing the ticket anyways, because people have gotten not even bothering bothering fucking around with it, you're screwed, or you're screwed more. That's all there is to it. You protest, you go to court, it costs you even more. So what? You get us. Still got to pay for a lawyer and everything else. There's a bunch of sharks swimming around, chase you over to one, chase you over to the other one, right? They can get you into the legal system, arguing with the lawyer somehow. They're making money hand over fist. Who's making money in our society now? Bankers, bankers, everybody that's collecting on all the debts and everything else that are out there from the phony money. So why do we have taxation? Because taxation keeps the lid on inflation. Do government employees pay taxes? No, they don't. Works like this. Here we have a tax kitty. You and I are private citizens. We go out there, we earn stuff, and we throw our real assets into the kitty. Okay? Government gets up a whole pile of real money in there. Now they have to pay their employees, the public. So the private citizens have contributed, now they have to pay the public. Okay, so I got to pay the public $1, so I'm going to take $2 out of the kitty, and I'm going to give one to the public servant, and then I'm going to drop one back in as his taxes. What do you see? Here's the thing. Here's me as a private taxpayer. I'm an asset. I am a positive contribution to the tax kitty. Him as a public servant, he's a liability. He's made a negative contribution. In his mind, he has paid taxes because he can look on his check and he can see the accounting trick that tricks him into believing that he's actually given something when he hasn't. He's received something. Plain and simple. But it puts into his mind that he's a taxpayer too. And now he don't mind going after you. You should pay your taxes. You see, CRA doesn't ever have the problem collecting taxes off a member of the public, off somebody that works for the government. The taxes are taken off up front, the taxes are paid. And that's why all these people believe that they have the right to go after private citizens who do not have employment contracts with the government. All they have is constructive fraud. A straw man put up to represent them, and they are put up as surety for that straw man. For no benefit. Taxes are collected. You get on CRA's website, taxes are collected for the benefit of the public. They are not collected for the benefit of private individuals of Canada. You telling me that public servants work for private Canadians? They don't even fucking listen to us. They treat us like dogs. I'm on a disability. The reason I was disabled is I was driving my tractor out of Apple Grove. My truck broke down. I had to move out. The landlord got an arbitration against us, and we had to move out. This was in spite of the fact that I had an arbitration hearing pending for over a year, and I had a letter from Abbott. What was his name? He's the MLA. actually he's the Minister of Health here in British Columbia. He sent out an inspector who took a look at this, what was supposed to be a septic tank. The lid had collapsed on it, and I found out that all it was a ditch leading into a stream. So the Counts Pataki had been shitting straight into a stream and straight out into Arrow Lakes for half a century that they owned the place, right? And I said to Count Pataki, I says, Bernie, you can't do that. You have to have a proper septic tank. You can't shit straight into the creek. I want to put the rent towards that. He didn't like that. He wanted to evict us and rent it to somebody else who would complain about it. And I said, no, you can't do that. That's filth straight into our drinking water. And so I called the Minister of Health when they tried to evict me over it, and they came out and they said, no, you have to dig a septic. So then the office manager in the cusp somehow managed to lose our arbitration order. Well, they got another arbitration order, and I had to move all of my stuff, and I had this overloaded trailer trying to get it out of there, and it was inappropriate vehicle to use, but I had no choice but to move, and I flipped the trailer over, or the tractor over on myself, and broke all the bones in my upper body. And they told me I was going to be over a year in the hospital, but then they kept on checking me for that super virus, and I had 3 holes punctured both my lungs, and could hardly breathe, and my heart was crushed, and I thought if I stayed there that I was going to die, so I managed to get out in less than 2 weeks. My wife agreed, you can die at home if I'm going to die or whatever, right? And it's been hard trying to get everything back together. They said I never used my hands, but I have those. And I got out, and I couldn't even use my hands at that point in time. And I went into the cusp office, and we knew the ladies in the cusp office because we'd been going in for, on average, about once a week trying to find out about our arbitration hearing. And Lisa, whenever she saw me, she came around and gave me a hug. She was in tears. I mean, I couldn't even move my hands in there. The next thing is this office manager all of a sudden has got this Owen the Loaders Act there, who I explained everything that was going on to that cop up front beforehand too, and they told me, I'd acted inappropriately in the office and I couldn't go into any government offices in BC, and he would arrest me if they did, and he just told me, he says, if you don't write about me, I'll just leave you alone. Well, he didn't keep his word or whatever, but I didn't write about him after. Put everything in writing, I say, so it's not legal if it's not in writing. They never have any paperwork, so I just write a letter, and I keep a track of what went on, and send the thing to them, right? They make their summations, and they hide all of my letters, and they try to paint me as mad and all that other sort of stuff, but you know what, I've got all of my documents, and I'm tired of getting railroaded by these people that are always trying to cover up the system from within. You see, here's the thing, is that our system hasn't grown corrupt. Our system always has been corrupt. Get on hiddenfromhistory.org and you see that our system always has been corrupt. If you read about the last depression, you see that our system always has been corrupt, but we have this hypocrisy, this nice shot side that we show everybody. And you can see it in church. Everybody all pretending to be something they're not, while they're screwing each other all through the week and playing dog eat dog, and every man for himself and all that other sort of stuff. And excuse me, using their religions as a place to go and find a way to interact within the community. And the problem is that they become cliquish because they start to band together and think that they have superior belief systems to everybody else, and they can push their beliefs onto everybody else. Whatever happened to free and equal? That every man owned his own piece of property, and he kept his own nose in his own yard, right? And that the true law, I mean, unless you do another man an injury, you should never come abreast of the law. I mean, if you have perfect protection of that. You go down, you test your drinking water, and there's cow shit in it, and you walk up the creek and you find out whose cows are in there, and then you charge them, because now you have a claim against them. They put something in your drinking water that's made it undrinkable for you, and they've done you an injury, and now you have a real claim against them. But you see, that never happens in our real courts. There's these, like I said, it's all claim of right, and color of law. It has nothing to do with justice. Justice is blindfolded, sitting out on the steps of the court while lawyers run rampant. It's the rule of law. Rule of lawyers. That's what the rule of law is. Why should our society even be ruled by one little segment? And who's behind all of the financial gains? Well, these are legally mandated notes. So who set up the government in the courts in the first place? And we find the people that are printing all the money. Now this thing weighs $1.30, yet it has $5 written on it. And today, silver is upwards of $32, and it's going upwards as well. It'll be $50 by the end of the year, and people will be going without food by then. A jar of cheese whiz in the north costed $23 now. I was reading that in the paper. A gallon of cranberry juice, $38, and that's because everything's got to be flown in by air, and they got you. And everybody up there is working only for food. You can afford nothing else, only for food, and barely enough to get by. So any money that you have, put it into food. Even your silver, okay? Silver is only good if you can afford a couple little pieces, and you know you don't really need more than 5 pieces of silver anyways. You know, like $5 or whatever. Like I said, $1. Feed your family for a week. Read the tales of what happened in the last Depression. All the kids that were on the street and stuff like that. If you were between 15 and 40 years of age, they put you out on a work camp for 20 cents a day. 20 cents a day. And they fed you next to nothing because there was next to nothing. And they put you out in the middle of nowhere because the federal government was scared shitless of everybody because of that march that they had on Regina and all that other sort of stuff. Our government was scared of us. Can you imagine that? Well, you see, here's the thing. If we had a legitimate government, they wouldn't be scared of us. They would want us armed and strong. If I was the leader of a lawful de jure government, as the prime minister of that government, I would want everybody armed. Just like over in Switzerland, it's a neutral nation, and everybody's armed to the teeth and required to serve in the militias. And I wouldn't want to see an army either. I want to see malicious people in their own communities looking after their own communities and armed to defend their own communities as well. And make my day laws. Absolutely. A man's home is his castle. And you know what? As long as you're up front and everything else, somebody breaks in and tries to take something from you, you have a right to defend yourself. I mean, this is just human, well, this is just common sense, isn't it? And you see, here's the thing, is you can't say that the Earth's overpopulated. We don't even try to feed everybody. The reason everybody's starving is because you've got about 6 families in the world that control all the world's foodstuffs. And they play all the systems off against each other because they want cheap labor resources. We're human resources. That's what the SS in this country, social services, the SS calls us, is human resources. These are our employees, refer to us as human resources. You know, and look at how they collaborate against you. I look at all of the stuff I've gotten, all of my files back under the Freedom of Information Act from the Disability Office, and I find out my disability worker, who always claims, oh, he doesn't know anything and all this other sort of stuff, has been communicating with the Mining Claims Office and the RCMP for a couple of years now. And the RCMP, this same guy, Dan Wendland, the guy that didn't investigate whenever we got broken in 2 years ago, always seems to pop up. Who's behind the charges and everything else? Why did Pat Clemens lay charges against me? Oh, because Dan Wendland went into his house and installed a fire alarm. Well, not a fire alarm, a burglar alarm or some goddamn thing. And he alarmed them, so he convinced them to lay charges against me. This is after they pretend arrested me because Dan Wendland had his panties in a knot, is what the gorilla said to me whenever he came out. This is just beyond bizarre what happens in this country because of this phony system. At any rate, that's my little rant for today, and I hope you understand something about money. Just keep in mind that in a lawful jure society, if you were to look at on the stock market, and you see gold at $20 an ounce and silver pegged at $1.30 an ounce, then you know that you have a lawful stock market. And the moment that those two commodities or those two precious metals go off that price, you know that there's phony money in play. Somebody's printing, allow me to print the currency of a nation, and I care not who makes its laws. Why? Because you bankrupt that nation. And you print this stuff and print this stuff and print this stuff, and what the taxation is just an attempt to bring this all back out of circulation as they buy up everything with it. So, you know, it's like I said, we can form lawful de jure governments, and we have to pay for the things that we want. But right now we're paying through the nose. Are our roads fixed? Hey, we drive between here and Cherryville, and there's crosses all over the roads and everything else, and they're all broken up. Every 20 kilometers you see another orange sign, broken pavement for 20 kilometers. You know, why not just put up one sign on the road, broken pavement all over the place, and leave it at that? And then you got the Ministry of Transport out there with the RCMP pulling you over and fining you because you got a piece of rust on your vehicle or a broken windshield or something else, and they're saying, oh, we're trying to keep the roads safe. Well, the roads are friggin' horrendous. It's hammering the shit out of the vehicles. And, you know, you don't fix them, and then what kind of a soapbox are you standing on whenever you're doing that? You see, here's the thing, is we're all dead broke, and then you have these public servants that, what are they doing? They know that they get paid out of the public kitty, and they know that we private people have to keep contributing to this public kitty, because if we don't, they got no bucks, they got no jobs or anything else. Quit paying your income taxes, and you see, for a little while it's not going to matter anyways, because you know what, all of the if we put our entire gross national product at this point in time towards the national debt, we couldn't pay off the interest payments anymore. So we've gone beyond that, and that's why the debt is hyperinflating. This is becoming more and more and more useless, because it's more and more impossible for people to pay a high enough level of taxation whenever the government is printing hundreds of millions of dollars worth of these things every day, and they're trying to collect that back from people that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars domestically a day. The whole system's going to collapse, and see what they do is they keep on playing these phony currencies against each other. Now they're going to bring in another phony currency. Oh, we want to place it with an Amero that's gold backed and all that other sort of stuff. Well, that's the same thing over and over again. Pay bearer on demand $1. That's how it starts out. Then it goes to fractional reserve and all that other sort of stuff. Do away with paper. You wouldn't take a wooden nickel. Why would you take a paper dollar? A dollar is silver. If it ain't silver, it ain't a dollar. And it's a scam otherwise. And if someone wants your assets, demand that they give you an asset in return. Hey, you know what would happen if we Canadians refused to take this garbage money anymore? This is snot money. $20. I give you this $20, and you take it down and you buy something in the store, and you pay your 14% on it, whatever HST is. They put it in the cash register. Somebody comes along, buys whatever, they get this back as change. They go into the next store and they pay their 14% on it. And everywhere you use this same $20, the same $20 bill, maybe used 10 times in a day in transactions, and it garners 140% of its worth. So it's just snot money, and it keeps on taking value out of the system. That's how this stuff works, so that they can try and keep a lid on it. But the whole, see, what's happened is they managed to keep it so that one currency collapsed at a time. One currency would collapse, and then that currency would inflate, and they were able to plug in the market with US dollars or whatever, that became the intermediate currency while the country got back on its feet, because the US dollar was the dollar standard for the world. And now people have gone off of that, because the US dollar is always was worthless, but now it is perceived as absolutely worthless as well, right? And Canadian money is on par. Of course, it's always worthless. You have to remember that all the world is a stage, and all the people therein are actors. And the people that put these debt instruments out as assets, as something of value, you work for these debt instruments. You can end up with just a big stack of these things, and you could stick them under your mattress and sit on them for 20 years, and you know what? When you take that stack out, it'll only buy a fifth of what it would have 20 years ago. Look at the situation that our youth face nowadays. We expect them to be patriotic citizens, yet at the same time they know that they're born into staggering debts that they're never going to be able to support. They know that there's more and more old people in their country all the time, and there's going to be less and less working people that are going to be able to support them. So they know that they've had nothing but debts. They know legally that nobody else can put them into debt, and yet they're born into debt. So it has dawned on them that it is slavery, and they are enslaved, and you can't get slaves to be patriotic to a system that enslaves them. I know I'm not. I mean, all of my life I worked to better myself. I took all sorts of courses all of the time. I got trades courses, certified renovation contractor through CMHC for literally all of the trades, inspecting houses, private water and sewage systems, and you name it. I probably had a certificate for it in the trades, and got into university and took as many courses as I could there as well, in an effort to try and improve myself. I minored in economics and political science, and then I have experience in the political forum with the birth of the Reform Party, and as president of the Alberta Party. I've written a couple books about the system, and when I wrote these books, that's really when well, that's not really when it started. It actually started in 1996 when I gave a 3-inch thick report about child pornography on the internet to the RCMP, and we got broken into less than 2 months later. And like I said, Wendland never investigated, and it appears that they mocked us and just played games with us from their official RCMP documents we got back under the Freedom of Information Act, and lost all of the witness reports for Jude's accident. So we got screwed around by ICBC, got next to nothing. Dealing with ICBC was worse than having the accident. We just had every government office coming down on us. We ended up on welfare, and found out later that the RCMP had written a letter to the welfare office stating that that we had a home-based business, yet the RCMP knew that all of our stuff had gone missing. And we never found that out until years later, whenever we got this stuff back and started seeing all of these notes from the disability office about how the RCMP had been calling them and bugging them, and notes from the mining titles office how the RCMP had been calling them and bugging them. Mining titles had never had any problems with me having a mining camp for 4 years, until the RCMP started dragging up mining inspectors and saying, oh, they're here for non-mining purposes. They come up, they take pictures of all of my samples, they take pictures of my equipment and says, this proves you have it for non-mining the purposes. How does taking a picture of my sleuths prove I have it for a non-mining purpose? This is just total retard, Bill. Tried to take it to the courts. Oh no, screwed around. Well, of course, the courts are all part of this system like that. So now I have to go to court after this Wendland puts up his informant to shooting through our motorhome and trying to murder us. And I petition the government by writing a letter to the ombudsman. This Wendland has the disability officer and himself charged me with uttering threats for writing letters and sending registered copies to the Governor General and everything else. Hey, how would you like, you can think of me what you want, but how would you like a couple bullets missing your 18-year-old son by a couple feet? I'm sitting out in the middle of nowhere playing in a mud puddle with a friggin' pan. I can hardly even move my arms. I got no electricity, no telephone or anything else. And the cops got to come up with all of these public servants and steal all of my property and cut up my greenhouse and steal all of my wood and break everything up and all that other cut my hoses and shit like that. And it's been going on for an awful long time. You know, we just got all of that information back from the disability office. Hey, Judah, how long have the cops been calling them, like this Pat Clemens said, he didn't know anything, and yet we find out that, what, years, yeah, making up the most hideous, filthy, friggin' allegations against us to try and take our kids and stuff like that. And yeah, I kept all my paperwork from that as well. It's just sick. And then you take a look at, these are the same people that washed the blood out of Mindy Tran's clothes. I mean, you take a look at the RCMP's track record here in Canada. Go to killthercmp.info. There's a website there that's got all of these RCMP criminals on it. Go to rcmpwatch.com. Thousands of crimes the RCMP have committed, and this is officers of a federal force. These people are redundant, and we don't need them in our communities. We don't need these foreign-owned corporations called the Province of British Columbia writing agreements with foreign mercenaries to provide them police services as they use their phony courts to steal our birthrights and take everything from us. My fellow countrymen, I hope you think about what it is that I'm saying. I mean nobody any harm. I mean to warn you about what's happening with this global financial system and these people that are play acting as our government and court systems. And we need to smarten up, and I urge you to get a Black's Law Dictionary and look up all the definitions of everything that I mentioned: color of law, claim of right, adverse possession, culvertage, barratry, champerty. Look up the legal definitions of free, of state, of the government, of public servants, of the civil service, of the Constitution. The Constitution is a body of law written by the state to control the government, and we, the people in a given geographical area, are the state. The state of Canada is we, the people, not this piece of ground that we all inhabit and that we all should have a free and equal share of. When was the last time you got a dividend check for one of the trees that disappears off of your forest and takes away your watershed so that your land no longer has any water on it? I mean, think about it. You go and you protest where? In the courts, and every time you lose. You have to be smarter than this. So everybody, I would urge you, please look up the Sovereign Squamish Nation and get online and read about what a lawful de jure government is, and quit paying this unlawful tax to CRA. Let's all stand up together, and let's say to Stephen Harper, it's not all right that you cut an economic deal with Obama to fold our country over into one economic unit, because it's just a big company, corporate company store, and it's outright theft to steal the birthright of everybody that lives here. If Stephen Harper wants to swear allegiance to the Queen, then I think that Stephen Harper should go over and live in England with all of the rest of the Queen's subjects. Well, thank you, my fellow countrymen, and I know that there are many of you out there that have the same viewpoint as me. I encourage you to get online and read my book on GentileDefenseLeague.net, to read some of my blogs about the monetary system on GentileDefenseLeague.org, and to consider what I say about religious texts that are just simply thinly veiled hate literature and perpetuate age-old hates generation after generation. We need to get rid of these texts and quit allowing them to hide under the claim that they are somebody's religious belief system, when they are so clearly racist and genocidal. Well, that's everything that I wanted to rant about today, and I hope that all of you are out there doing the same thing, just planting not seeds of dissent, but seeds of hope. You know, here's the thing, is if we understand the system, if we understand the truth, be it so bad as it is, we're ingenious and inventive, and we can set this straight. People ask me, well, how would you pay down the debts? Well, how I would deal with the debt would be to jail all of these global bankers that have so obviously committed financial fraud against us. And in order to do that, first of all, we need to form lawful de jure governments, so that we can form lawful de jure courts, so that we have a lawful venue for non-violently making the world what the majority of us want it to be. Let's return to the rule of free men and leave the rule of lawyers in somebody else's fantasies. Peace and love, my fellow countrymen. Be strong. We're going to get through this.